Today I'm bringing guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, we are going to be breaking down the hottest sports cards right now and whether I believe they are going to continue to go up or whether I believe they're going to settle down in price. So without further ado, we are going to hop right into the video. So we're going to pop into market trends on alt. And when we look at the basketball card market, we see that Dylan Harper is the #1 performing player on the 30-day chart. It shows he is up over 54% over the last 30 days. Now, keep in mind, the last 30 days is from about the time that they made the finals until now. So that includes a couple weeks post NBA finals. Now, when you look at his market, you can look at a lot of his important cards. We could take one, for example, his McDonald's Chrome Auto in a PSA 10. This card right here during the playoffs was around a $200 to $300 card. It really started to heat up at the end of May. And when you look at the sales post, I guess, them getting knocked out or losing the finals, we see that a lot of his cards have continued to rise in price. Even if you look at his other grades, his cards have continuously risen in price even after losing the finals. And I've actually had a lot of people message me on Instagram kind of asking, do I think that his market is going to continue to rise, or is it going to continue, or is it going to settle down and come back down to earth? I personally feel like, first and foremost, the thing that makes this a little bit tough is that he does not have many cards out right now, and a lot of people have not really graded his, especially his lower end cards. And that is simply because PSA has had backlogs and his market is still so fresh. So when you look at a lot of his important cards, if you look at his Topps Chrome, PSA 10s, even of something like an X Factor, which is not incredibly rare, you see that the pop counts are fairly low. I believe Harper, you can see his 90-day chart is insane, up almost 150%. Harper proved that he is going to be a star in this league, in my opinion. He showed a lot of poise in clutch moments. He had an incredible playoffs. He had a great regular season, but I think in the playoffs is when he really had the world looking at him as one of the core members of the San Antonio Spurs that are going to continue to, compete for the next decade plus. And I think a lot of people see that and are starting to price that in. I will be honest, it does scare me how quickly these have gone up. I mean, if you look at his Topps Chrome Auto, this card during the NBA Finals was a $2,400 card. Now we're seeing some sales above 4K. We're going to see if they stay up there. But for me personally, I think his cards are very card dependent, whether I would buy or not. So when you look at a PSA 10 Pop 43 that's doubled in price hypothetically due to these new comps, and you look at his PSA 9 and his PSA 9 hasn't quite gone up as much, I would feel comfortable buying his PSA 9 right now around May prices, before they made the finals. I think that is a smart buy. So I do not think his PSA 10 paying double what they were going for, on May 19th is a smart buy. But so I truly think it is very, very card dependent when it comes to Dylan Harper. And I tell everybody this, if you're able to spot the cards, you can look in the same card and look at different grades even. So for example, if somebody told me, do I think a PSA 9 is a solid investment at $500 where it's selling for right now? And I look back at the price chart and I see it was selling for the same price in May, I do think that is a solid buy. If you're able to get his prices without paying a crazy premium of what they were worth before, I think it is a good time to buy. Yet if you're FOMOing into a card that has already doubled, I do not think it's a smart buy right now. And that is also because I think another risk is that a lot more are going to get graded in the next coming months. I think Dylan Harper's cards are becoming a lot more gradable, as you can call it. As values go up, they become more gradable. More people start to send in these cards. Previously there weren't many people sending in a base Topps, Dylan Harper. But I think now that he is proven to be a stud, more people are going to be sending these in. And so if you look at a base Topps that's Pop 500, I think if you give it 6 months, 12 months, this card is probably going to be a Pop 3,000, a Pop 4,000 if I were to guess. And so I truly think if you're able to buy the right cards at the right price, cards that are not going to skyrocket in population, I think you're going to do all right. but I do think FOMOing into a lot of his higher end cards, and paying crazy premiums. I mean, you look at this card, for example, a yellow PSA 10. This card jumped from $500 to $2,100 in the span of 3 months. Do I think that's a smart buy? I think it's risky. His PSA 9s haven't gone up as much, so I truly think it's a very card-by-card basis. Now, Jalen Brunson's another big one, and I'm going to have the same answer, the same boring answer. I think it's very, very card-dependent. I think his Prism Silvers right now are at a pretty high point, but I personally, I made a video about this earlier. I really like his Blue Prism in a PSA 10 or a PSA 9. I think this card's going to continue to have legs. And when you look at kind of where it was before they won, I still think there's a good amount of room for it to go up, especially when you look at where Luka's at, where Shea's at. I'm not expecting him to reach those levels, but it kind of gives you a good idea of how much room these could potentially go up. So I truly think that, Jalen Brunson in general, I think his market is going to be on another level moving forward. I don't think it's a small hype cycle. I think bringing a championship to New York City changes the market dynamics forever, and I think he's forever going to be collectible. And I think especially when he's in the league on the Knicks fans are going to continue to buy him up, and I think people are going to continue to realize what he means for the city. And so I personally think for a majority of Jalen Brunson's cards that they still got a lot of legs, to continue to go up. It's just very card dependent. I would not be buying his modern Knicks stuff, at crazy premiums. For example, his downtown, I wouldn't be FOMOing into right now. But there are some of his cards, for example, some of his rookies, that I do think are good investments right now. Now let's continue to look down the list. Of course, we've got some players that I do not believe are going to be very investable, like Landry Shamet, Mikal Bridges, OG, even Karl Anthony Towns, to be honest. I think you have to be in another level of superstar for you to be long-term collectible. So when you look at a Landry Shamet who's gone up, all this much, I do think it's a good time to sell off. I just don't think his cards are going to be relevant for the long term. And so I personally think it's a good time to sell off for Karl Anthony Towns, OG, Mikal Bridges. Ace Bailey's a tough one. I would say it is a little bit card dependent. But I do think that the pop counts being so low and a lot more getting graded is what scares me with stuff like this. Is this product still so fresh? When you look at his PSA 10 tops, it's a pop 249, for example. I think that's only going to continue to go up. And when supply goes up, it's going to take a lot more demand for your cards to even stay the same price, let alone go up. So let's switch it over real quick to football. We see the GOATs continue to go up. When you look at football, it has really been the GOATs that have been leading the pack. I personally think Tom Brady, Montana have gone up a lot. I do think guys like Breeze and Manning have yet to go up. I think those might be better places to put your money personally. But you look at, of course, Myles Garrett went to the Rams. His stuff's up a good bit. I personally wouldn't buy defensive players. When you see players on this list that you don't believe are going to be long-term investments, when you look at Deshaun Watson, when you look at Myles Garrett, people don't really buy, defensive players. People don't really buy tight ends much. So when you see players on this list that are not really long-term investments, I would say Kelsey's probably one of the few anomalies for a tight end who has collectability. But for a lot of these players, I would be taking profits right now, and moving into something else. But when you look at, the GOATs, Tom Brady's always going to be a solid buy. I do think his levels right now, to where a lot of his high-end cards have gotten to, are, extremely high. I mean, when you look at his Tom Brady Bowman Chrome PSA 10, this card not many months ago was around a $10,000 to $15,000 card. Nothing has changed in his legacy besides the market picking up. This card went from, $10,000, $12,000 to $28,000 in the span of 3 to 4 months. And that does scare me a little bit. I personally would be taking some chips off the table here and putting it into other players that I think have a little bit more room to grow at this point. I do think if you're holding it for the long term, like if you have a 5-10 year output with this, I think you're going to make money. But I think if you are trying to, continue to invest and hope that these are going to continue to go up a lot in the future, there's other places you can put your money to where you might have a little bit more room to grow in the long run. So let's hop right back into the trends. So like I said, for most of them, I'd probably be selling off. But when you look at guys like Tom Brady, Joe Montana, I do think that they have good steam. And for baseball, guys have hot streaks. And so for a lot of these players, I'm personally selling off. Yes, I do think that there are guys who are reaching superstardom who can continue to go up, but I do think overall it is tough to be placing your money into these players at these all-time highs. And so, yeah, I mean, that's going to be the video. I really hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you enjoyed, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, comment down below who you guys are buying on this list and who you guys are selling on this list. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.